Well now, here we go again, doing a tutorial for a 4-minute long solo again. Why the hell do I do this to myself? Oh, I know why, because I love it. One of my subscribers, Darren, who knows that I like to do tutorials for solos on the longer side, that others fear to take on, mentioned to me last week that there was no tutorial on YouTube for this classic solo. Lots, of course, for the studio version of Comfortably Numb, but none for the Pulse version. He might as well have told me that there were no tutorials on YouTube for the solo to Stairway to Heaven or Hotel California. I was shocked. I'm like, I can do that. The solo to Comfortably Numb is obviously one of the greatest solos of all time, and the Pulse version is arguably as famous as the studio version for those in the know and who are fans of David Gilmour's playing. So let's get a tutorial up for this solo, shall we? I've got this pretty close to note for note in its entirety. While it starts out sticking fairly close to the studio version with a few deviations here and there, before long it deviates away from that and becomes an entirely different solo altogether. One big difference in the Pulse version of the Comfortably Numb solo is the amount of whammy bar work that the Pulse version has compared to the studio version. We'll try to cover as much of that as we can throughout this tutorial. So let's get started, shall we? We're in standard tuning with this one, working predominantly in the B minor pentatonic scale with, as usual, a few outside notes here and there that I'll do my best to point out as we go along. So get yourself in standard tuning. I'm going to get myself plugged in and we'll get started. All right, so let's get started here. The solo starts off with a big slide down the neck into a D chord. And then a little pull on the whammy bar. You can give it 2 or 3 pulls. Sounds good. And then into the famous opening lick with the pinch harmonic at the 7th fret. Not always easy to get. And then grab 9 of the G string and hit it twice, and the second time you're going to give it a full step bend. And when you get it up there, give it a little waggle. And in the Pulse version, there's a little mute. He stops it and does a little mute of the strings, and then grabs that 9 again and pulls it up for another full step bend. And then release back to 7, up to 9 on the D, and then back to 7. I'm not going to hit that pinch harmonic every time. I'm just going to hit 7. But know that it's a pinch harmonic. And then release back to 7, grab 9, back to 7. And then a double hit. I think the studio version, he hits it 3 times. On Pulse, he hits it twice. And then lets it ring with a little vibrato. And then 7 on the G, up to 9 on the D, back to 7, and then kill the note. Almost immediately. Let it ring just for a second with a little waggle, and then kill it. And then we're sliding into 11. And then you're going to grab, on the G, slide into 11, then you're going to grab 10, and then you're going to do a double hit on 12, and the second time you're going to go up for a full step bend. And when you get it up there, before you slide in, when you're coming out of this, grab your whammy bar and give that, when it's up there for the full step bend, give it a little dip with the whammy bar. And then 10, another double hit on 12, and then give it another step and a half bend. and then you're going to go 7 to 9 of the G string, and then you're going to hit the 9 and then bend it very quickly. Release to 7, up to 9 on the D. So it's not this. It's not that. It's a very quick, you hit the note first before you bend. Now this part's slightly different than the studio version as well. He's hitting a double hit at 10, and you can be fairly aggressive with this part. Get some muted strings in there. So it's a double hit at 10 on the B, back to 7 of the B, a little bend at 9, release back to 7 of the G, and then finish up on 9 of the D. Whoops. So up to that point, slowly. And then we're going to slide into 9 of the A, and then grab 7 of the D, and then grab 9 of the D, and then 7 of the G, and then pull off 9 to 7 back to 9 of the D. And everything here has got a little bit of vibrato going on with it. And now we're into the little rake. It's basically you're raking down the B minor chord on the bottom 3 or 4 strings. And you know, you can palm mute that to get that rake to ring out a little bit better. So you rake down that. You can just rake down the bottom 3 if you like, right there at the 7th fret. And then grab 9 of the high E and give it a full step bend. You hit it first, then give it a full step bend. Sorry, half step bend. Up to that note. And then another little half step bend, back to the natural note, back to 5, or back to 7, sorry, and then up to 10. And then when you get to 10 on the B string, you kill that note, and then you get it up there for a full step bend and hit it again. And give it some vibrato. That's a little bit tricky. And now we're into the first scale run of first of 3. It's right up the minor pentatonic in B. So I'm going to run through it a number of times slowly. I'm not going to pick out every single note. So it starts off 10 to 7 of the B string, and then grabbing 9 of the G. Basically right up the pentatonic. And then when you get to that, it finishes up there on 7 of the low E. You're going to slide out of it, and then you're going to grab the open G and the open B string together very quickly. I don't know if it's a mistake, but it's there. And then you're going to grab 3 hits of the 7th fret of the G string. And now we're into the second scale run. So again, I'm just going to play that slowly from the triple hit. Every one of these scale runs starts with that. A little bend on 9, and then 7 on the B and the E. It's basically the same notes as the first scale run, just played a little bit differently. Whoops, I made a mistake. That's it right there. And now we're going to slide into 9 of the A, and then 3 hits on 7 of the D, and then pull off 9 back to 7, and then roll down to 7 of the G. And then back up to 9 of the D. And now we're into the final scale run. It starts off there at 7 on the G. Well, that leads into the scale run, so let's run through that. That's pretty easy, just little blues licks there. And then one final little pull off from 9 to 7 of the G. And every one of those scale runs starts the same way. And that one's very similar to the first one, except there's a little chromatic run here from 9 to 8 to 7. And then it finishes up on 5 of the A. So, up to that point from the beginning, starting in D, and now we're into this part. So that's 2 to 5 on the low E, and then you're going to hammer on 2 to 4 on the A string, pull off back to 2, and then pull off to the open A, and then back onto 2 of the A, and it's all very fast. That little hammer on pull off section, very quick. And then you're going to grab 4, and you're going to give it 2 hits on the A string, and then a little half step bend. And then one more little half step bend, and then release back to the natural note. And then pull off 2 to open A, and then slide 2 to 4. more time. And now you're going to slide from 1 to 2, and then open A, and then slide into 3 of the low E, and then slide in, you hit the open A again, slide back into 2. Lots of little sliding going on here. Some people think it's whammy bar, but I watched him play it, and he's not actually touching the whammy bar during this. So slide into 2, then slide into 3 of the low E, and then open A, slide back into 2, and then open D, and then a half step bend at the 2nd fret of the low E, and then to open E. And when you hit the open E, you're going to give it a couple of whammy bars. There's a part earlier where he hits the whammy bar a little bit, and I'm going to show you. So right there, you can hit the whammy bar a couple of times there. Whammy bar there as well. So that's that part. Now we're going to slide into 9 of the A string. So slide into 9 of the A, down to 7 of the D, and then 9 of the D. And this is all right here on 7 and 9. So I'm not going to tell you every note. I'm just going to play it slowly. That first bend I do is actually a pre-bend. Right there. So don't bend up to it. Kill that note. Get the note up there. And now we're into this. That's 7 to 10 on the B. And then a double pull, double full step bend on 10 of the B string. And get your pinky down here on 10 of the high E. And then back up to the bend on the B string. And then 3 more hits of that bend. And then release back to 7. And then 2 more. Start off at the natural note. And then you're going up a full step there, and then you're going up a step and a half. And then release back to the natural note at 10. And then 2 more full step bends. And then pull off to 7, and then grab 9 of the G, and then back to 7 of the B. So up to that point in this little section here. So and now this part, full step bend. When you get it up there, pick it again and release it to the natural note. And then you're going to release back to 7. And then you're going to give your whammy bar a little dip, a dip release when you get back to that note at the 7th fret. And then you're going to roll down to 7 of the high E. And then this little part here is tricky because you're string skipping right into a full step index bend at the 7th fret of the G string. And that's tricky. So you're hitting a 7, rolling up to the G string. So you're a 7 on the high E, and then you're rolling up for a full step bend at the 7th fret of the G. And then 7 on the B up to 9 of the G, and then this little lick. And then another index bend there at 7. And again, this is all right there on the 7 and 9 on the G and the B string. So coming into that little lick. And again, there's a pre-bend. The bend in there is a pre-bend. So you're following that? I hope so. So, and now we're into that part there, which is in the original solo. Your little double stop action here on the 7th fret of the G and the B. And lots of waggling vibrato going on here. And then grabbing 9 of the D. And then the second time you hit it twice. And then you start pulling off 9 to 7 back to 9. And you do that, I think, 5 times, and then you slide into 9 of the A. And then you repeat that like 8 times. So slide into 9, grab 7 of the D, pull off 9 back to 7 of the D string, back up to 9 of the A, and then grab that double stop again. I think he does that like 8 times. And then the very last time, he doesn't go back up here, he goes. And pulling off 9 to 7 on the G. And then he's into. So he does that, I think, 5 times. You know, that classic blues lick. I'm a little bit out of tune here. I apologize for that. Probably for my whammy bar work. And that's what he's doing right there, what coming out of that. And so up to that point, and then we're going to stop for part 1 of this because that is about halfway through the solo. Then we're into. Then we're into that, and we'll cover that in part 2. So let's run through the whole thing right from the beginning slowly up to that point. And that takes us to about the halfway mark, and we'll finish up in part 2. I hope that helped you out. It's a fantastic solo. You guys take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time. Ciao.